Hi everyone, welcome back. If you are just starting with programming, this video will be your first step into learning C++, one of the most powerful and widely used programming languages. Before we jump into coding, it's important to have basic idea about how a computer system actually works and know things like the CPU, memory, and the input-output devices. I have already covered that in one of my earlier videos. You will find the link in the description below. The second thing to get familiar with is your operating system. I personally use Ubuntu and I have made a short video explaining how to use it. Do check that out if you haven't yet. Now let's talk about C++ itself. C++ is a high-level programming language, which means it's easier for humans to write and understand compared to machine code. But remember, the computer doesn't understand C++ directly. Every program we write in C++ needs to be compiled, which means translating into machine executable code. If you want to know more about what high-level programming languages are, I also have a short video explaining that concept. You can check it out on my channel. So in this video, we'll start with simple introduction to C++. Before we start writing our first C++ program, let's understand how to set up the C++ environment, what actually happens when you install C++ on your system. When we talk about installing C++, we are really talking about installing a compiler, which is a special program that translates human-readable C++ code into machine instructions that your computer can execute. On Windows, C++ is not pre-installed, so we need to add a compiler manually. There are several ways to do that. For example, through MinGW64, which is a lightweight version of the GNU compiler for Windows, or through Microsoft Visual Studio, which includes its own compiler called MSVC. Once installed, these compilers integrate with code editors like Visual Studio Code or code blocks, so you can write, compile, and run your programs all in one place. On Ubuntu or any Linux system, things are much simpler. The C++ compiler, usually G++, is part of the GNU tools that comes built into the system or can be installed with a single terminal command. That means if you are using Ubuntu, you can open the terminal, install the compiler once, and immediately start coding. So whether you are on Windows or Ubuntu, the end goal is the same: to have access to a compiler that understands your code. Once that's set up, the process of writing and compiling C++ program is identical on both systems. You write code in a text file, save it with .cpp extension, and compile it using command g++ followed by your file name. So all right, now that we have set up our C++ compiler, let us see and understand our very first program, the classic hello world example. So in this, you will find that you have first line hash include iostream, and then int main void, and then you have brace, and then you have standard cout hello, and then next line is return 0, and then braces closed. So let's go through it line by line. The line 1 has hash include iostream. This line at the top is called preprocessor directive. It tells the compiler to include a library, in this case the iostream library. iostream stands for input output stream. It gives access to features that allow the program to display output on the screen and take input from the keyboard. Without this line, the standard cout statement that prints text wouldn't work because it's defined inside this library. Next is line 2, where you have int main void. This line defines something called the main function. In every C++ program, execution always starts with main function. So the computer looks for main and begins running your code from there. The word int before main means that this function returns an integer value when it finishes running. The void means this function doesn't take any input. We are not passing anything into it. Next, you see an opening brace and a closing brace at the end of this function. These braces mark a block of code. In this particular case, we are using it to define a function. Everything inside them belongs to the main function. In C++, code is organized into blocks like this, so the compiler knows where a function or a structure begins and ends. Next is statement std colon colon cout, and this is the actual instruction that produces output. Std colon colon cout means use the standard output stream, basically print something on the screen. Std stands for standard, which refers to the standard namespace in C++. The double colon is called the scope resolution operator, and it tells the compiler to use cout from the standard namespace. So standard cout together means use the standard C++ output object called cout. The double angle brackets is the insertion operator. It tells cout what to send to the output. In this case, the text, which is string hello new line, and the slash n at the end means new line. So the next output would appear on the new line. In C++, every instruction must end with a semicolon, just like a period at the end of a sentence. It tells the compiler this statement is complete. If you forget it, the compiler will show syntax error. Finally, we have return 0. This tells the operating system that the program has finished successfully. The value 0 conventionally means no error occurred. If something went wrong, a different value could be returned, usually a non-zero number. And then the shell, which is invoking this program, will know what error has occurred. So to summarize, hash include IOStream gives access to input-output features. Int main void, this is the entry point of every C++ program, and it defines the block of code. Std colon colon cout, it sends the text to the screen, passes data into the output stream, semicolon marks the end of a statement, and return 0 signals successful completion of the program. And that's your first C++ program. Let us compile and run this file and see what happens. So to compile, we will use G++, and since our program is stored in hello1.cpp, and the name of the output we can give, which is hello, and this has successfully compiled, and therefore you don't see any message. And now to run this, I am running hello program, which prints hello. Now consider this program, which looks almost the same as our previous hello world example, except for one new line near the top, which is using namespace std. So let's understand what that line means and why we might use it. So in C++, a namespace is like a container that groups together related names such as variables, functions, and objects so that they don't accidentally conflict with names from other parts of a program. Think of a namespace as a family name. It helps identify which version of something you, especially when two things have the same name in different libraries. The letters std stand for standard. It's the name of the namespace that holds all the basic features of the C++ standard library. Things like input and output, cout, cin, strings, containers, and several algorithms. So when we write std colon colon cout, we are saying use the cout object that belongs to the standard namespace. So addition of using namespace standard line at the top, we are telling the compiler that from this point onward, if it sees something like cout or endl, it should assume it comes from the standard namespace, even if we don't explicitly write std colon colon in front of it. So instead of writing std colon colon cout, etc., we can simply write cout and it will look cleaner. In this example, cout hello endl, cout still refers to the standard output stream, and the operator less than is still the insertion operator, sending data to the stream hello text which we want to print. And endl inserts new line and flushes the output buffer. The line using namespace std is very common in beginner programs because it saves typing and keeps the code much more simple. However, in the larger projects or professional code, developers often prefer to avoid declaring the namespace at the top at the global level, because it can cause clashing with some other namespace or library, and therefore it is preferred to have std cout explicitly being mentioned inside your program. However, there is a possibility that you can avoid writing using namespace, but then you can explicitly mention that cout and endl comes from namespace, and this can be done as I have just shown. You can write using std cout and using std endl to mention that wherever you find cout and endl later, they are coming from standard namespace. So rather than taking everything from std namespace, you are explicitly mentioning specific keywords that are coming from standard namespace. So let us compile this program and we will see that it is exactly giving the same output as the earlier program. So let us see this program in which we have declared a few variables: age, height, grade, and past. Let us understand what a variable really is. A variable is simply a name given to a memory location, a place in your computer's memory that stores some value while the program runs. You can think of it like a labeled container that holds a piece of information, such as a number, a letter, or true or false value. So in C++, before you can use a variable, you must declare it. That means you must tell the compiler what type of data it will hold. Here, int tells the compiler that age will store an integer number. This allows the compiler to reserve the right amount of memory and check for type consistency later. C++ provides several built-in or primitive data types. Let us look at the most common ones. The first is integers, and there are several variants of it: int, short, long, long. These types are used for whole numbers, and depending on the range of values you need, you can choose between short, int, long, and long. Each of these occupies a different amount of memory. For example, typically short will require or use 2 bytes, int 4 bytes, long 4 or 8 bytes, and long 8 bytes. You can also make them unsigned, meaning they can only hold positive numbers, doubling the positive range. Second is floating point types. There are again several variants: float, double, long, double. These types are used to represent numbers with decimals. For example, 3.14, 5.9. Float typically takes 4 bytes, around 6 digits of precision. Double, 8 bytes, about 15 digits. And long double, 12 or 16 bytes, depending on your computer system. The third primitive type is char type. A char represents a single character enclosed in single quotes, like quote A, quote B. Under the hood, characters are actually stored as small integers based on the ASCII table. The fourth data type is bool or boolean. The bool type holds only two possible values, true or false. In memory, true is stored as 1 and false is stored as 0. The fifth is void type, that represents the absence of any value. You can't really create a variable of type void, but it's used in function declarations. For example, int main void means main takes no argument. So in short, every variable has a type, it has an address, it has a value, scope, and lifetime. Let's try to understand these things in detail. Type defines what kind of data the variable can hold: integer, floating point, char, etc. Every variable has a memory address, a unique location in RAM where its value is stored. You can see it using address of operator, which is denoted by ampersand. And here is an example. The third thing with a variable is memory usage, which is the size. The data type determines how much memory is reserved. For example, if you want to know the memory used by age, you can print it. The fourth thing that is associated with a variable is value, the actual data stored, like 21 in age. And then you have scope. So within which part of the program you can access a variable, which is typically identified by the block structure. Next is lifetime. The lifetime defines how long a variable exists. Local variables exist only while the function runs, and then they disappear. Whereas other variables may continue to exist as long as the program is executing. So let's compile this program and then see what happens. So we are compiling var.cpp where the program is residing. And when we run it, you see that age, height, grade, past are printed. So far we have printed messages using cout. Let us see how we can make our programs more interactive by taking input from the user. This small program takes your name and your age as input and then prints a friendly greeting. Let's go through it step by step to understand exactly what's happening. The first line, hash include IOStream, gives us access to input and output features, cin and cout. The second line, hash include string, allows us to use the string data type from the C++ standard library, which can store text. In C++, before we can use a variable, we must declare its data type. So the compiler knows what kind of data it will store. The first line prints a message asking the user for their name. Then the getline function reads the entire line of text typed by the user, including spaces, and stores into the variable name. This is important. Getline is used instead of cin arrow because cin stops reading at the first space. So if the user types Alice Johnson, getline captures the full name correctly. Next, we ask for the user's age. Here we use the input stream operator arrow with cin, which reads the data from the keyboard and stores it in the variable age. This operator automatically converts what the user types into an integer because age was declared as int. If the user types something that is not a number, the input will fail, which we will learn how to handle later. This line combines text and variables using arrow operator. It prints a personalized message that includes the user's name and age. The endl at the end inserts a new line character and flushes the output buffer, making sure everything appears on the screen immediately. When you type something in the console and press enter, your input first goes into an input buffer, which is a temporary holding area. Functions like cin and getline read data from that buffer. When using both cin and getline together in a program, it's important to remember that cin leaves a new line in the buffer which getline might accidentally read. In our example, since we use getline first and cin later, that problem doesn't appear. But in the other cases, we might need to clear the buffer using cin ignore. So each time you type something, C++ reads that input, converts to the correct type, and stores it into the memory location for your program to use. So let's compile this program and run it. The program is stored in input.cpp, and I'm giving executable name as also input. The program compiles and I'm running it. It's asking who are you. So it is printing the message, hello Andrew Johnson, you are 24 years old.